Alrighty. We're gonna go ahead and start this up. And I don't really have necessarily exact goals today. I've been working with light. I've been trying to figure out why the lights are not really working in Blender right now. And I have a couple theories on why. And in fact, what I want to do is I'm going to take a existing zone. So in this case, we have Broodlands, and you'll notice there are no lights in Broodlands right now. Let's get in the game real quick and just verify this. I mean, obviously it's going to be easy to verify, but I want to verify if the settings of a light actually work in game, because I feel like there might be like an environment setting or something with Zayla's exporter that needs to be tweaked in order for this to actually work properly. So first thing to do, log in. So debugger is not here. Let's fix that. Let's get some zones spinned up. There. All right, here's my little test zone, by the way. So we're going to go ahead and zone to Broodlands and see what the light level looks like, especially as a human, but we can try Stark Elf as well. So you'll notice Broodlands has light. But it's not properly lit. It's also interesting. You see how the lava flows? Has multiple layers and illuminates? That's something I would love to figure out how that's done and why it's not working for me. But you'll notice there is no light data. So let's go ahead and go to 000, which in this zone puts you in the middle of a waterfall area. Which, by the way, that's what the waterfall looks like. That's interesting. How's the water look? Yeah, see, the water here looks fine. I've been trying to replicate this on mine, and it was giving me headaches. But yeah, notice that all the light data is messed up. Some areas are just lit, though. You see that? It's interesting. What is this getting lit from? Also, I got to figure out skies. But nevertheless, so 000 is right here. And unfortunately, because 000 is at a location that's like not lit, let's put one right here. Okay. So we're going to take a picture of this actually for my reference, because we want to verify the lightness gets changed. So we're going to go into the zone file. We're going to verify this is the right Broodlands. ROF Broodlands. No lights are added. So let's add. You know what this could be too? Did I save? Well, regardless, we're going to call this lit torch. Oh man, it's lit torch 01. And we're going to set the location to -26.86. -115.78, 8.71, and we're going to make it red light. And I know that like 50 should be a pretty good setting. So we're going to save this, exit, start up again, and let's see if this actually lights up the area or if we have some other issues going on. There we go. Did I change my active? I did. I actually have my face on it too. What happened to full screen? There. This is what I was meaning to show this whole time. All right, so if you look at this and you compare it with, where's my photos? Honestly, it looks like it lit it. But it's not the right color if it is. Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't think I see any red. I don't think it worked. But also this zone is a little wonky. No, set myself to flying. Because notice like the light data is now dark over here. I think that Zayla's light importing is just broken. Because if you notice, this all used to be lit, and now it's not. So we got to look into that. I got something messed up. Super interesting though, like there has to be an ambient light being set or something that's causing these rocks in certain angles to light up. So that's something to figure out. Anyways. Okay. Let's go back to I think Lantern is able to get lights. I don't actually have Lantern Extractor cloned. Can I actually clone it just like that? Ooh, he's not easily known. Or is it called Extractor? It doesn't know my history very well, so it can't find it. So GitHub, or let's do Lantern Extractor. There we go. So basically, we want this. There. We're going to go ahead and clone this to source. We're going to open it. Then we're going to go, yes, I trust the authors, go into the source control, change the branch. Can I change the branch? Or remotes? There. We're going to change it to developers. Can I pull this? Switch to branch. All right. Now we have the latest of Lantern. And what we're going to look for is light. And what I want to verify, well, first of all, what sort of lights can it actually support? Because I'm pretty sure it has zone support. Let's see. What's an easy way to know that? World filed zone. I'm pretty sure this is an EQG format. Let's see. What we could even do is target this, but let's go look at some file lights real quick. Export light instance. Which is just export data when a light is found. And light instance, according to this, has the position and the radius of an existing light. But then you also have light source. Defines color information about a light. But you'll notice that it says on initialization, it takes a data set and sets it to a fragment, and it is reading a name by a string hash, then it reads a flags, then it has colored light, And then if it's a place light source, and if it's a colored light, it gets RGB. It's not a colored light, it has two values it doesn't understand. Okay. So the question I have is that if we go to the EQ zone import and we look at light sources, what it does, there's a few things going on, but one of the big things that it's kind of different is that this doesn't have a reference system. Like that totally gets stripped out with his version. That might be an issue. I wish he would have defined light as its own file because it just makes life easier. I could do that real quick, honestly, but it's part of zone. I mean, that makes sense. Lights, you can see here, light is defined as this: name index, XYZ, Z, RGB, and then radius. And I'm pretty sure this is the same with EQ, or Quail has. Is it Quail? No, Quail does not have. Quail is kind of based on a mix, though. Notice I have light instance, but I don't think I have light source, do I? I might need to double check that. Anyways, but also in EQX, there is a light fragment. You'll notice it's almost identical to this is it loading lights from a zone file. Which it apparently splits as its own instance during those zone lights here. Parsing zone placeables. Zone lights. I mean, this looks fine. Newer values of lights apparently have a lot of longitude and latitude. Two strings. That's interesting. So these are like pre-allocations. Okay. What is TOG? Interesting. Oh, this is for placeable objects. So, yeah, light effects. That's going to be another question I need to debate is, am I going to support V4 at some point or not? Because if I am, I'm going to have to write it probably into Zalus tool. But you'll notice that he's using 1D as point light, and this is not actually known. But light instance is 28. So let's do a quick comparison here. What is this tool actually making? So X28 is actually 40, right? If we go to Quail, 40 is a light instance. So that sounds about right. And then if we go to extractor, they're using 1B version, which is 27, which I call light source. So one thing I'm kind of confused about is which one does Lantern Extractor use for lights? I think he's using the 27 edition. Ew. I don't want to listen to I don't want to listen to rain. So if it's using 27, which we can define that, where does that actually get saved at? Well, on the right, it takes each light instance, adds it to the data buffer using object. Oh, that's object. Where's lights? Is it up here? No, it's down here. So it pushes an index, it gets the table and writes it out, the name and all that, and then it adds it based on the light size. But where's the actual header that tells it that this fragment is a light? It's probably because I'm just passing the light instance. I mean, we could look for (0x1b) or 27. That's gonna be a lot of them. Let's go see if we can find another light instance. We're looking for like fragment. This may be in the DLL that he does not expose. Just super annoying. We got that. Yeah, that's part of third-party tooling. We don't care about any of that. Okay, so yeah. See, it does this buffer writing system, right? And this is the .zon file. Do .zon files not use fragments? Is that what's going on here? This right here is a .zon as well. So as it loads this, oh, see, it's fixed every single time. There is no fragmenting actually with .zone, which does Lantern even support .zone? There's a chance it doesn't. It only supports S3D. Yeah, because you can see there's code that looks for S3D during EQ paths. But like, is there any code for EQG? No. And there's no code for ZON either. So Lantern is a totally different system at this point. And .zone files actually are pretty straightforward. They don't actually seem that difficult. Because you'd literally just have a header file that's called an EQGZ, and then you put a bunch of counts, and then you just write them. And from what I can tell, this looks right. I wonder if there's like a regional data point or something that's not being parsed properly. In fact, you can almost confidently say that because notice that this file is not loading lights, but we know for a fact that this zone had lights. So I guess we can go into Hex Editor, review it in Lazarus case, Broodlands. This is going to be a little interesting. You figure that the LIT might even... No, it's not going to be searchable by text like that. We don't know how many lights are in the zone. Is that actually in the log file? I think it might be. So let's open up a log file real quick. Broodlands. So when it loads, it says initializing lights. But that's all it says, unfortunately. It doesn't actually tell you the light count. Wow, there's a lot of light referencing in here. Initializing lights. Yeah. Well, poop. So there has to be a bug going on with how lights are being loaded. And the reason I know this is this Broodlands, I just exported a light. We could do a quick comparison and likely figure this out, because I did a relatively simple. All right. So the left one is Lazarus, which is a untouched Broodlands, right? The right one, I saved light data on. So one of the first values that are likely going to be different between the two is going to be the count of lights, which should be on the top somewhere here. And one of them should just say 1. I believe this guy will just say a number 1 in here. In fact, the very beginning header here, you can see there's a 0, 1. But I don't know if that's necessarily, because if you go back to when this writes the zone file, right? It creates the header file, and the header is designed where the magic is first, then version, strings, length, model count, object count, region count, light count. So the last portion of the header, which is the size of uint32 times 7, which is what, 4 times 7? Which is 28. So 28 in. So what? 16, 32, somewhere around here. There should be a 1 on this one, but I don't see a 1. So that's interesting. Because I only defined one light, right? Yeah. I could set a breakpoint, start up Visual Studio. Maybe I'll do that actually. That might make my life a little easier. So we're going to go to Zone CPP. We're going to go to the light step. And I'm just going to verify this is doing what I'm expecting it to do. So lights on right is right here. And we're going to go ahead and breakpoint there. And yeah, we can see what the header is when it finishes about here. Okay, let's open up the debugger. There were crashes. Oh, you can't open it because I have copies of it open. Let's close those out. Okay, so we have Broodlands here with the light data. You can see here, we're going to hit save. That's going to trigger my breakpoint. And we can see in lights that I am writing out what looks to be exactly what I've set. Yeah, the precision is actually pretty high. That's interesting. But we hit continue. It's setting a second one? Is that what just happened? Third? What? So what's the light count? Is there 4? What? That's not right. Interesting. What about region count? 32. That sounds totally wrong too. What about object count? 1,158? How the fuck are we getting these numbers? And model count's 58. That seems off. I might have something broken, obviously. So for fun, this value, we put it in hex form. Let's see if we find this in the write out. It might be overflowing, but 9063. Do you see this on like the first couple lines? No. Let's make sure it writes. This file doesn't say EQX. Oh, there it is, PFS. Which, by the way, why does this say PFS and not EQG? Oh, I know why. I'm dumb. I'm doing this wrong. I need to get to EQZip. Open Broodlands. I missed a step. Get to Broodlands. Open this. Find the zone file. Extract this. Let's just toss into the desktop. Grab that file. Pop it in here. This is what we care about. Oh yeah, see, this is much easier to read. But the question here is, yes, you can see here there's 1. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah, because look, it's EQGZ, right? Then you have the numbers, and then you have this value, which is 1. And if we scroll down, you're likely going to see pretty cleanly the light data. In fact, we can probably search for light. Yep. So light torch, 0, and then there's going to be some values in here like 13, 24, 4C, and 75, and 60. If I remember right, this is actually the data here. 1, I think, is just going to be FF. And the 50, I don't know if that's going to be a direct 32 or not. Let's see if there's a 32 in here. So light torch. Not seeing a 32. Oh, that's right. These are not going to be defined like that. They're going to be lower, like embedding it towards the bottom of this file. Because I'm pretty sure the last thing written is light data. But nevertheless, we've now confirmed that lights are actually being properly written. I don't know why my value was so off. That's a little weird, but I think it more is a debugger problem than... so what I'm going to do next is grab Broodlands OG. There we go. Grab its Broodlands zone file, extract this. We're going to extract it to documents, sure. And that's just so I can keep it. And Broodlands _ original. Toss that on the desktop. move this into here. And what I'm curious about is, first of all, notice that the casing of files is a little different. And what did I just get a direct message about? Oh. Okay. You'll notice though, light data. Interesting. So it isn't the fault of EQ Zone Importer that lights are not being loaded, because if you notice, the value of light is 0. Huh. So where is light data being stored? Is it using an older style? Like a hybrid? What's going on? Because, okay, so before this, light data was stored in a WLD file, which would still also be called Broodlands. Oh, there's .lit files. I wonder what LITs do. Because there's quite a few of them, but like swamp boulders, they don't necessarily have lighting data. Huh. Let's view this in details. So we got DDS, LIT. And it looks like the LITs are based on like instances, like all those are object instances. And in Broodlands, you have .zone. So where else would light data be stored? Do you think maybe it's on a third-party file? Like, what else is in the directory near Broodlands? We have an emitter file, which this is for like sound effects. Yeah, it's not in there. And we have a environment emitters file, which has teleports and just various effects that need to be entered in. Which, by the way, this is something I need to learn as well and add in. You know, I actually should write that down while I'm thinking about it. So readme to do. Add environment emitters, which is a zone name underscore okay. Add character data. Okay. What else do we need to do here? Probably would need to add EMTs as well. Add sound emitters. So where's the light data? What does .lit have? Do we have any documentation in the past about that? Lit data has 0 vertices, so there's something with vertices. Lit is lighting info. But this is for... Do we have anything that loads lights? Let's double check EQX. Does it have .lit support? No, because it never uses light data. So we need to figure out LIT. Because zone importer ignores it. During import, delete .tar files matching .lit files, if any. So they're at least referenced. It's picking up all the... Yeah. So there's terrain data, which has name, shader, name type, value, material, references, triangles. Yeah. But LIT files are not being properly converted. I think that's the problem. And I don't know if anybody has ever sorted out how LIT files work. So I think what we need to do... See, LIT files are based on like sub-objects. Because you have model definitions. And then each model has LIT files. Do I support .mod in this? Doesn't look like it. I think that's something that model importer works on instead. In fact, let's go do that real quick. GitHub Zalia zone importer. He also has model extractor. In this file, this looks like the old style because you can see it's looking for fragments and not .mod. But I mean, it does support it when you load through if you go to model weapon importer and you run this program and then you open up any sort of EQG, let's do Broodlands even. You can see there's 3 of them. Cave Facade is not Yeah, see, kfacade is a .mod file. And still moon, but like kfacade ice is ignored. Still moon gate and volcano. Also, did I just see that right? Was there a... Yeah, because look at this. This lava boulder SM1. I think this is actually linking with... Come on, give me this window there. Thank you. Materials. In some variation. I don't know though, because this should be like OBJ, but it's not. It's not in lights. It's not this. There we go. So this allows you to have model definitions, but these model definitions have light data. Does this mean that the terrain has light data as well? And if it does, then why do we have the external light system? How does .ter work? Is what I'm really asking right now. Let's see. So if the extension is terrain, then the terrain name is X, yes. Then, how do we import .ter files? How does ter get worked? This is terrain. This is how it's read and written right here. And this, I think we already talked about this earlier, but just to verify, we have a shader, and then it has type and values. Yeah, so this is all this data that gets loaded right here. I think this is all it has, because ultimately what objects are models. These are really imported objects from third-party things. So if I was to use, yeah, see, they're placements. So that means you can have multiples of each object type. You may define it once, like lava piece. And then you can use it multiple times, even though in their case, they tend to not use the same one over and over. Here you go. Druid pillar is used like 19 times and it's only defined once. How do I actually see the Druid pillar though? Like, because notice this has a .mod, but this model importer doesn't support it. And my extractor, I don't think, extracts those objects properly. Like, I think it merges all the .mod file info. So that's a bug or a feature that needs to be cleaned up. Like, how do you define... You have to import it through here as external objects. I see. Oof. Okay, so this means... kind of a tangent, because we're supposed to be looking for light data, but I'm still learning. But what this means is when I'm working on my converter tool, when I recognize that there is a linked object, right? I need to actually take the link and find the original object from the scene and export it individually, which I'm kind of doing because right here, this has an export scene object system. this needs to exclude any of those linked objects. So when I find a mesh, if I find a mesh that's a linked object, I need to delete it, continue the loop, and then export it as its own object file and create a text file that is like definitions and another text file that's like references. So I could even start this. So like FSD is open the base name plus, and then this will be definition.text. Or how about like mod definition? And then FSI is going to be mod instance, or usually it's placement, but instance works too. And what we're going to actually have to do is first we need to make sure we can identify when an object is an instance or not. And in my opinion, there's two ways you can do that. And honestly, I could support both ways. You can have an externally linked object, meaning like this cube is technically part of a different scene. I don't have that scene open anymore, but I'm pretty sure I made this as its own scene. Yeah, this box.blend is linking to this. I don't understand linking in this very well. Like, how do you even understand if this is linked? Other than you can see here, this is all disabled. The same ordeal is happening with these two files right here. And here, one second. All right, I'm back. So anyways, I was going to say these two objects are also linked. But you can't really tell. You do see an instancing object option. You can see here the thing has a little link. I guess this is what it's just saying, is that like the mesh is being linked. And of course, the texture is being linked. Could I set, by the way, I'm curious about this. If I set a custom property on this object, like flag 1, and I save this, I know that it might need a refresh. In fact, let's do that real quick. We're gonna save you, close you, open Blender again, and let's see if this object inherits the object's properties. I guess it doesn't really matter if it does or doesn't because it's going to anyways. In fact, I can't set them. So yeah, it's just whatever's inherited. That's fine. Okay, so if we go back to convert, we need to figure out how objects are linked in Python. I know this is how you functionally link, but how do you verify if an object's linked? Everyone's like make links, but like how do you check linked? Python, Blender, check link. There. Which I've seen this, but it didn't. Beefy data objects cube. Hashtag cube library is none if not linked. Wow, that's a... I see. So what it's telling me is that if my current object, which is technically ID, but I can use O, if O.library, then there's no then, that's a Lua thing. Print O library name. And we'll put in the word. So what this should do info read library. Okay, so you can see here like mesh, orcpon 001, mesh, orcpan 2. Why are there only 2 meshes? Oh, that's right, because it needs to have these other properties in order for this to trigger. So let's do this. If O-type equals mesh, then we can do this check. There we go. So you can see linked cube has a library. So this isn't working is what that's telling me. In fact, it errors if I do O library on a lot of them. Do you think I have to get the object? No. I mean, it might want my data. No. Yeah, it looks like data stores it, not library. Oh yeah, it's because I need to be mi library name. Okay, so now we're talking. What we're going to need to do now is do an extraction of the specific objects. So what I need to do So if it's an object in a library, then we can continue on. We know the object's name now. We're going to do an export, and we need to select. So how do we do select none and select all in Python Blender? I think that's what it's trying to tell me. How do you clear selection? So we have target path, right? Or target file. We're going to do a definition version. Or obj file. And we're not going to call this base name. We're going to call this whatever the object's name is. And instead of to the target file, we're going to do it to the object file. I think this is it. I got to get going, but I'm going to finish this later. Ultimately, I'm going to make the mod definition and instances work, and then I'm going to start loading that into EQ Zone Exporter. What that'll let us do is essentially build out all of this data. Come on, there. The definitions and placements of objects that are third party. And you can do those instances by just importing Blender files. And I like that design because that's basically the same idea, right? You have these third-party objects that you're linking, and those third-party objects are defined in one location, which is a third-party blend file, and then imported in. And that'll let you super easily know in Blender, what are third-party files. So, anywho, that was an hour stream. I'll wait 30 seconds, but hopefully that was insightful and interesting and fun. I got some progress. I figured out a new thing to work on. This is actually super helpful. I'm going to keep this and put that in Zone Importers README. Hey, thanks for following, Zal. I'm going to probably be doing a lot of streams similar to what you just experienced, which is me essentially talking about EverQuest expansion or stuff. Let's do it this way, actually. And let's also... Damn it, don't word wrap. You're messing up my auto select. Okay, what I'm going to do here is extension, description, and then it's dash, 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 and that should cause, there we go, like a little table. But yeah, Rizel, thanks for the follow. I don't know if you've been lurking or not, but ultimately I'm working on EverQuest object stuff, making it where you can do the entire EQ game in Blender. And I'm trying to teach or glue all the different concepts that Blender knows and make it work in EverQuest so that you can just run my little converter script and it'll just magically export all that data. Which, by the way, I just exported all those files into the tutorial directory. Yeah. Which I don't think there'd be any but cube. Yeah, I see this. No, that's the box blend. There should have been a linked file. Did I not finish it yet? Interesting. I didn't write it. Is my convert script not running the latest copy of the Python file? It should be. While we're waiting a second, I'm going to just work on this. Mesh has no object attribute select. I think when I do my selection, I have to use O, like that. No, don't run convert. Run this one. Object has no attribute select. Why can't I BPA data objects, BPY data objects? I don't know. Why doesn't select work? Oh, it's called select set. There. And that should actually cause cube object and material to be defined, and that's based on here, because that's called a cube. So it isn't actually using its linked name, which I don't know if I like that. I guess that does make sense, right? Because you're defining the object in the blend file as cube. It's taking that data and then it's using it in reference here. So that actually is perfect. We may use the instance name on the other export. But anyways, yeah, that works. It's successful right there. We're going to go ahead and take out this comment because we now know this is succeeding. One other thing is, if we find this to be an object, we're going to go ahead and continue. Or better yet, we could delete it. We're going to continue after deleting it, like this. And the reason we're removing it is because this is scene-based, so it's not actually impacting the Blender file, but it's temporarily removing it so when the export happens, there's not an instance of it in that as well. So this geometry is now no longer in the main file. It's now, as it should be, a linked instance. So that's pretty cool. We deselect all, we only select the specific object. Then we export as an OBJ. So the next thing is going to be taking instance and definition creation. Because once I do that, this will populate the information. Oh, I closed them all. Here. That'll define the instances in the models, the definitions and the placements. I call them definition and instance. And then that will pretty much full circle it. I'm not 100% sure how well the .mod system is going to work with native zone importer, but worst case, I'll code it. There is a .mod. Right here. This is a write for .mod. So I think it might work. We'll see. Anyways, I'm going to stop the stream. If you've been watching, hope you enjoyed. Might be streaming later. Got some family stuff happening, so we'll do it